what's going on, guys? I figured I'd do a different video today. Well, I mean, it's still LCPDFR related. I'm going to be going over how to install it. A lot of the questions I'm getting lately is, show us how to do your build, show us how to get it in there and all that stuff. I know other people have, but I'm going to take you from square one and we'll go from there. So this is, 100% kind of untouched vanilla build from Steam. Not a whole lot's been done to it. Nothing, you can see it, literally nothing's in here. Everything is kind of the standard set vehicles and models and all that. So anyway, we'll take this main version, and before you do anything, this should be a backup version. Never mod your original version unless you want to waste time downloading the entire game again. Just back it up to somewhere, external hard drives, things like that. They're cheap as hell, so just do yourself the luxury of that and back it up. And you avoid so much headache. So the next thing we're going to do, and I'm not going to visually do this step because it's a waste of time for me, is you're going to launch it. You don't need to launch Grand Theft Auto 4 using Steam. You can just go to the launch exe right here, and you can launch it doing that. And you're going to run through it once, and you should get a request to go through your firewall or whatever software you're using. And verify that the software works by itself alone. I know a lot of people have problems with Windows 8 and things like that, and the black screen, and you gotta find your way to get around through that, be it using any type of additional software, getting some type of additional DLL to get it to work for your setup. So now that we've verified that it's going to work, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install it. Now this is the manual installer for LCPDFR 1.1. This is, I just directly opened this, I unzipped it, I didn't do anything to it whatsoever. And when we do this install, we're just going to literally highlight all these files, and we're just going to drag and drop them over into our Grand Theft Auto folder. And from there, LCPDFR is in. Still got a lot of stuff we could do, a lot of car packs and whatnot, but we are going to cover some of the basic stuff. So if you go into your LCPDFR folder, you can go into the diagnostic tool that's included in here. And I always suggest, a lot of people don't understand this or even realize it, if you got multiple copies, you might not be grabbing the right path. So go to advanced mode and then click configure that. What that's going to do is actually try to grab it. And now see, if you take a close look, this is already shooting in this direction. It's a different copy entirely than what I'm interested in. So I can just grab this one, pop that in there, and I'm looking for this LCPDFR INI, which is located right here. But you want to make sure you're in the right directory. You saw how I was going to a different build of mine. So you go ahead and double click that, and from here you can set all your options. My advice, lower this. You do not need 20. 10 is very plausible. You got to keep in mind that you're going to have 2 people per cop car, so 10 will work out pretty well. The cops and cop cars are also, it goes back and forth and it gets handed. There's no reason to upload your crime statistics if the server is down, or it's an additional process just for a website statistic. The name of the game here is limiting things that can make crashes and bugs on the computer. Disable your AI roadblocks. I mean, not only is it really unrealistic, but the suspect's going to slam right into him anyway. You would never see a daisy chain of cop cars across the highway like that unless it's something like a hellaciously violent crime. And from here, don't preload your models. That can cause a lot of issues. I like to have the no camera focus on. It really gets annoying. You can go over to your next slot. If you don't plan to use the boat callouts, then disable it. Don't even let it come up. I don't like to have LCPDFR looking to make random foot chases a thing. Again, it's more kind of additional code calls it's calls that are annoying that you might not even see. And then from here you can hover over these and it'll tell you what they do. But for the most part, I only like to have one maximum ambient scene at a time, and I like to reduce this. You can see the higher the value is set, the more likely it is that something will happen around you. So I kind of put that around 100. So this makes sure that only one thing that's going to be happening at a time that's not around me. Ambient meaning that it's not directly related to me. And then the multiplier being set lower increases the durational chance of it not happening, if that makes sense. And then once you're done with that, you just click apply. So went through really briefly, just going back through it. We dragged and dropped everything into a clean build. We went into LCPDFR, and you can go into a raw edit of this INI file if you want. So here's all the same raw data and so forth. And you don't have to do that, but if you feel more comfortable coming in here, I like to change first start to false. It's just offering tutorial that when it pops up. And I also like to get rid of the stockade being used. This is just the vehicles that come to transport a suspect when they come get them. And there's other things that you can tinker with, but this is preference. As you can see, those are cop limits that we set in that file earlier. But not everything, not every option's in that last file, which is kind of why I chose to pop in here real quick and show you that as well. So now that we've got that done, we're going to go to another critical mistake that I see a lot of people make. We're done with that, so we'll close it out. We'll move on to ELS, ELS 8. I'm not using 8.5. 8's working great for me, so I'm going to stick with it. And you see ELS is not in here yet, but I want to point out something extremely important to you guys. ELS comes with this advanced script hook, and so does the script hook itself, or advanced hook and then script hook. Sorry, my mistake. I said it wrong. Don't eat me alive. But you'll notice if you look at the one that comes with LCPDFR, it is slightly bigger, and then if you also look at the date, so this advanced hook right here is dated software as compared to this. So don't drag and drop these two. Don't. They're not dated right. You need these sound, and you need these, and you also need this. And this is just in here. I'll talk about what this is so some of you guys can understand. This is just something that helps ELS look more visually pleasing. It does emissive color adjustments to, the other emissive lights for your vehicle, like your headlights and things like that. Can all be found in that file. And I'm not going to walk you through that because this video will become hellaciously long, but I did want to touch on it to let you know what you guys are installing. So again, these are probably outdated. I didn't look at ELS 8.5. You guys asked for my setup, and I'm using 8.0. And I'm not going to move to 8.5, I don't think, ever. I mean, there's just no point for that. I think they're pretty much done working on it. He might do some more fixes, but 8.0 works great for me. So we're just going to drag and drop these into the main directory. And you'll see that it wants to go ahead and replace a couple of files, and that's because you got your visual settings and so forth. So now that we've got ELS installed, it's pretty straightforward to install on your ELS style cars, and I'll probably cover that in an additional video. I'm just covering on the 3 big mods. So lastly, we'll do the Cry3ENB, because this is what I use, and you guys are always asking me how to get it in, and this is extremely straightforward as well, as long as you stick to what it says. So you got to install here, and this goes on to the main, and you can see it replaces a couple things. Again, this ENB was geared towards visual settings, so it's going to replace the ELS visual settings. And what you're going to do is you'll just highlight all of these, and you can do a simple drag and drop, and you're going to replace pretty much all the files that come with this. I use the D sound from this ENB series as compared to the D sound that comes with LCPDFR. And at first I was leery, but they're the exact same file. They're dated for the same date. They're the exact same size, and D sound's just something that gets you working. So now we did our install. Here's where I say stop. Don't do anything except fire up the game. That means go down to your launcher, run the game, change nothing else, and make sure it works. Just turn on the game, go play it for a little bit, maybe 10 minutes. Don't even worry about putting your ELS cars in yet. Don't do your ELS cars yet. Just get this ENB set up, get your ELS set up, and get your LCPDFR set up with your options. And if everything worked, then come back here and you can check out this. So okay, maybe it didn't work. Well, go in here and read it. Okay, so did it crash on load? Did it crash in game? Or did you have problems rendering textures? And in here, you'll find solutions for it. I'm not going to dive into each one, but go through these folders in a series of steps, and it's going to work out for you. So he's got, if it went well, then you're good to go. You got installation for beginners, which talks about more mods. He's got recommended mods, and this kind of, I personally don't use SweetFX. But what it does is kind of make the edges more predominant, less rigid, very minor anti-analyzing that you can use. So now you got your settings in here. On default, it's at high. If you got a low-end rig, go ahead and change that out. And that means copying all of these, and I'm just going to show you how to do it. If you've got a low-end rig, you grab all these, and you throw them right there in the main, and you replace them. That's the settings for the games go into the command lines, and they go into the ENB Series. All of these are like predefined settings that this person spent their hard time making. But I know that I could easily run the high end, so we'll start out with there for that. If you got a pretty good, like if you've got a 270 AMD product, or a decent 600, or somewhat recent NVIDIA graphics card, then you can get away with high pretty easily. If it's integrated, or if it's a laptop, you need to start at low. And if you can handle low and you're getting 60 frames and you want to try mid, then go back to the mid end and drag that in there once you got the game turned off. Okay, so now that we've done that, you can see this comes with a version of ELS. So we're going to completely ignore this. I already showed you guys using 8.0. You can do 8.5 if you want, but just keep in mind about the advanced script hook and the advanced hook and the advanced script hook. And then you got your optional presets. You got your atmospheric lens flare, and what that can kind of do is a flare is like a glint kind of in your face. It adds more of a if you ever seen like the sun refract through optics and make that weird looking flare, that's what that's in reference to. And you can pick the color type or whatever. Same thing, blue headlights. And here's you got your depth of field of view. You can set it so if you're looking at something, it'll focus on that. You can set it to be off so everything's crystal clear, both near and far. Or you can set it to be static, like maybe you only want to see 20 feet towards you in a way. And you can kind of use static to hide a lower end rig computer. Like if you go in here and you set it to, if you went with a medium quality and went with a medium distance, then you'll kind of hide stuff that's further away. And you can reduce your draw distances and graphics like demands. But there's no getting around bad computers. This is and this is kind of hand in hand with the lens flare. You can see that it does all types of like effects in terms of glares and things like that, just to try to bring the level of realism from what we see up. Everybody knows what God rays are, just the light that refracts through the buildings. This is just a link to some of the HD textures and things like that. You guys can figure that out on your own. Just Google, Grand Theft Auto 4 HD trees or HD roads. You'll find what you're interested in. And then here, lastly, I just want to talk about the motion blur. If it's on like insane or ultra, it gets extremely blurry in my opinion. If you got a vehicle cruising beside you down in the bottom area, it'll kind of blurred to the point where it's like extremely blurred. I tend to always settle in on high quality, and to put this in, you just drag and drop it into the main folder and you'll see it already replaces something. But you don't have to go through and do some of these because this installs standard. It comes stock. So just in reviewing, we did our LCPDFR install first. We went in there, we changed the documentation around to what we wanted in the settings. And we even went into the INI. Then we put in ELS, and you can see you got your ELS files on here, and you got your ELSs in the main category. And then last we went ahead and just threw in an ENB. Now that doesn't mean you'll be ready to go. Doesn't mean the game will be beautiful. You still got to put in cars. You still got to put in a lot of stuff. A lot of you guys don't understand how much effort goes into one of these builds. But it'll get you started. You will have to tweak the graphical settings to get the lightings looking right using the ENB Series INI. You've got things such as the main ones in this area are going to be bloom, if I can find it. Adjusting the bloom, just play with it. Each time you play, try to adjust something, make little notes by it or something. It was too bright, it was too much. And you also have your common data visual settings that we talked about. Where you at? Right here. Again, that's for your lighting settings and so forth. And you have to keep in mind that during the day, some of your stuff will look slightly better than night and vice versa. So cycle through your times. But we just went into the ELS INI as well. And if you're going to be using things like my backup callout, you need to make sure that the ELS range AI is not any lower than 500. If you have that lower, that callout's not going to work for you. ELS will get rid of the cars for whatever reason. So just keep that in mind as well. But other than that, that's pretty straightforward. I'm probably going to do some more car tutorials or something of that nature, depending on what you guys are interested in. This is legitimately my setup, just shy of not having the cars and the guns and things like that. Those are pretty simplistic stuff, but this is how to install the game using the manual version. Always back up your stuff. You know, this is a backup of my backup, and don't just power through it. Like, once you're done with this phase, make sure it's working. If not, go to the Cry files and see if something's crashing right away, or if you know your computer's not performing. You're just gonna crash. If you can't use the ENB, don't, because you'll spend more time crashing than you will playing. And sure, it might look good for 3 minutes, but you know what's worth 3 minutes of play, because you could have had 45 if you didn't do the ENB. The name of the game is not slowing the game down and not overstressing your rig. So, you know, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm open to questions. I'm open to suggestions. Tell me what other types of tutorials you guys would like to see. And, you know, I'll catch y'all at the next one. I really appreciate all of y'all's support. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to keep doing this or justify doing this if it wasn't for y'all. So, later.